Hello, welcome back to Tuesday Talks. This is a bit of a different episode. I really wanted to do something fun and special and kind of dive away from the usual like Warrior Cats stuff that I end up doing. So today we're talking about probably a fandom I've been in longer, if not the first fandom I was ever in, and that is Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. It's always been something very special to me. Return of the King happened to be the first movie I ever saw in theaters, and just all these movies hold a very special place in my heart. I'm currently making my way through the books. I grew up reading and listening to The Hobbit. I absolutely remembered all of the riddles. I was so excited by that book and just all that Tolkien had created that when it rolled around that the day that I'm recording this, the 19th, which should be Sunday, that it's the 20th anniversary of the movie version of Fellowship of the Rings, that I wanted to do something special, which was just a speed paint. I know that's probably not super interesting, but I had this idea for weeks, and I think it's kind of what made me want to create Tuesday Talks and fill up enough space so that I could talk about this. I think I originally planned for this to be like week five, which it's not. It's week four, because I took a week in between episode one and two to scrap like three ideas. Which, yeah, that's on me. I should have planned that out better, and I am trying to plan things out better. But most of this is just like fun, spur of the moment, do what I want to do kind of stuff. So on to wanting to do what I want to do. Here we have this extremely long, probably the biggest drawing I've ever done, picture of Boromir's death. Now, I used the references from the movie and not particularly from the book because I know that he's supposed to have a golden belt, which I forgot. I wanted to include that, and then I just completely forgot he had one. And I also wanted to draw the flowers of Gondor. I forgot the actual name for it, and I'll probably put it up in the editing, uh, which are not actually in the scene. Obviously, that's just some artistic license. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's hard to say like at what point this takes place of, like, because if it was before Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli showed up, then obviously there would still be like orcs and Merry and Pippin around, but if this was post that, obviously the other three would be around, or there would be skirmishes of battle, or whatever. And if this was like right before they were gonna put his body on the boat, he wouldn't have his arm braces because Aragorn would have taken them. At least if we were going according to the movie, which I know small details doesn't matter. So it's just a lot of artistic liberty. Don't get hung up on all the little details because it all, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're not gonna see it that much. Um, I really avoided trying to do any patterns. Like his wrist braces are supposed to have the Tree of Gondor on them, And I was just like, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna draw that because I'm gonna shade over it and no one's gonna see that anymore. And yeah, I'll be like, oh, cool, I put the Tree of Gondor in there. Isn't that neat? And then I'll also probably forget that it's there unless I go back and look at the recording. So that's fun. I tried to keep to a very simple color scheme and I tried to keep it all universally shaded, which is just how I draw. And I kind of find a weird detachment from Boromir with the background, which is maybe just me. If I went back and did it, I probably would have done the background first and then like sketched him on top and then made it more like cohesive. Not to say that it's not cohesive, but you can definitely tell that it almost looks like he's not actually in the background, and this is more of just like he is laid on top of it, which, oof, okay, my bad. I didn't want to spend too much time on this drawing, which, who, big shocker, I did. And after I had finished, I looked at it and I was like, there's some things that I'm not happy with. I just went, yeah, moving on. Not gonna stay and deal with it because if I stopped and tried to fix everything, if I ended up spending another like 2 hours just trying to tweak positioning or color or any of these things, I'd be here for too long. I'd probably end up redrawing him and spending a whole bunch of more time on it. And the recording was already, what was it, like 4 hours and 11 minutes recording alone. And that's not even mentioning all of the time that I spent out of recording, the couple minutes in between that I would stop and I would do things, the times when I sketched beforehand, the times that I put in, like, I did headshots. You can see the headshot I did for Boromir at the side because I wanted to make sure I had accurate colors. I put like an hour into sketching and then resketching and then more detailed sketches with like base coloring for his character and then for the background. And like there was a lot of time and energy put into this, and I think it's about 8 hours. And this isn't even originally what I wanted to do. This is just what I settled on because I wanted to draw a really cute picture of him and Faramir, which, if you don't know, that's his brother. And then I went, oh no, I don't feel like drawing Faramir today. And then I never just sketched him into it. Um, I was gonna want to copy someone else's drawing that they had done, which was really, oh, it was so sad and beautiful, and it's of uh, Faramir finding the battle horn broken in half and just being sad. And I was like, that's so good. And I didn't want to copy that because that's probably what I would have done. And I would have felt bad if I had done that and then saw that image and was like, oh shit, that was someone else's. Oops. Well, it's not exactly copying art, but I didn't want to. I wanted to do something fun and different, and I feel really bad for Boromir because, and this is completely just, it's not anything important. It's not even that interesting. But I recently had rewatched The Hobbit and then I watched The Lord of the Rings, and I was already paying a lot of attention to the story because I feel like every time I rewatch something, I pay even closer attention to all of the story and the details and the world building and a lot of things, and I just wanted to know how Tolkien world built for reasons I'll probably get into in another video if I ever talk about uh, a, a world I've created for my OCs. And I had noticed that even though I was watching the extended editions, and I've always watched the extended editions, um, I completely just forgot that Boromir existed as a character. Like, I didn't not remember the memes, right? I think it's really hard to forget that like one does not simply meme. Like that's pretty iconic, and I knew that he was there in that scene. I forgot for some reason that he existed because not the last time I watched it, but two times before that, and I'm not even joking, I will fall asleep in the same place every time. It is in between when Frodo looks into the mirror of Galadriel, which is a cool scene, and then I wake up at the end. I wake up when Sam and Frodo are on the boat. That is, I sleep through everything that happens in between there. Them leaving Lothlorien, I don't even pay attention. Them, going on the boats and then seeing the statues I forgot the name of, and having this whole like, are we going? Are we going to go to Gondor? Are we gonna go straight to Mordor? Which way are we going? Completely just forgot that all existed, and was like, oh, I just Boromir's dead by the next movie. Oh, who cares about Boromir? I liked Faramir's character a lot because I like the actor. I think he's a great actor. I've seen him in a lot of other things that I've enjoyed. And I completely forgot that there is a scene in the extended edition where we go into the past and we see Boromir, Faramir, and Denethor together talking, and it's about Boromir going to get the ring, or going to talk about the ring, and I forgot that scene existed, which is funny because I watched Two Towers so much as a child. I always remembered him showing up with the others when they're fighting off the elephants, Oliphants, my bad. And when they're like, "Ugh, Gollum went into the sacred pool," which that's a funny meme, Faramir. Thanks for scaring this little hobbit boy. That's so good. Um, like I liked Faramir, excited for Faramir. Boromir, who I did not remember. So when I watched it on my latest free run, and I was like, oh my gosh, Boromir is such a cool character. I love this guy. Him and Aragorn are like team moms, and it's them and their four little hobbit sons, and it was like I was just so excited. And then I got to his death, and I was like, oh yeah, he dies. I'm sad now. This is upsetting. I forgot he died. And then I got like excited at the flashbacks and the mentions and all of these moments where like we see him again, which is awesome. And I was just like, "Oh, I've been incredibly unfair to the character of Boromir my entire life. Why? Because I sleep through his existence." I am making my way through the books, as I've said, and I have been loving every moment of it. I have been listening to the soundscape one, which if you know how amazing it is. It's they basically use the music, lots of sound effects. Very good experience. It's literally like listening to a movie, and I have been joyfully listening to that. And I just now, earlier today, finished Fellowship of the Ring, which was very good and also a little bit upsetting that I thought I was going to be able to, like, finish the book and be like, oh yeah, I'll come and sit down and record this and be like, I read, I got as far as the death of Boromir at the end, and I was like, and no, he doesn't die at the end A Fellowship of the Ring, he dies in the beginning of Two Towers. There's an entire chapter about him dying the beginning of Two Towers. I understand why they wanted it to be at the end of the first movie so that they could like pop a time skip, which from movie making perspective, completely understand. That's way easier than having to be like, we're ending it with them on the boats and then we're going back like 5 minutes after that in the next movie to be like, oh yeah, Boromir's dead, by the way, and then time skip. Like, I completely understand the need to just be like, we're gonna cap it at his death because it all happens in the same time, and then we could just universally all skip over to everyone else on their adventures past that, going their ways, right? Completely understand. This is why you read the book, okay? Or like get check other sources because not everything in the world is laid according to what is shown to you in one type of media, and not that I feel lied to, but I feel a little lied to. I know it's just a little silly, but also the line that he says in the movie is so good, and I'm so mad it's not actually in the book. I'm like a little bit shocked. I know this is just personal preference, and I know that it's supposed to be a lot more cinematic, and it's supposed to really be like this emotional moment. But I feel like Boromir was so underplayed in that the movie gives this really neat, interesting perspective where we are supposed to note him as, I wouldn't say like an antagonist because he's not necessarily an antagonist. Like, he's kind of like a really minor antagonist where he's just supposed to fracture the the trust between the Fellowship and then symbolize how Gondor is not full of people who are maybe at the best that they could, which is why we go in through Rohan, which I definitely like. I love the Rohirrim. I love horsemen. Uh, I I think that he's incredibly underutilized, and that cool death at the end of the movie is just a good way to like send him off, and that I feel like the book like glosses over. They're like, oh yeah, he's dead, by the way, moving on, which is definitely not the fault because we're not supposed to care about Boromir that much. Because I know that Tolkien spends this entire time talking about how like Boromir's great, but, and that's like everything he has to say. Um, yeah. I think I'm gonna wrap this up. But first, I want to talk about my favorite part of the book real quick, which does not necessarily have to do with uh, Boromir in particular. Um, and if I ever get back to talk about Two Towers, I will try to mention whether or not that death was my favorite part of the book because I have a feeling it might be, but I also really love the ends. Anyways, my favorite part of Fellowship of the Ring has to be the scene in which they're making their way through the mountain pass, which I forgot its name, but I know it starts with the C, and I feel bad that I can't remember that. And they Gandalf is like talking to um, basically everyone that's not Aragorn and Boromir, who are currently like making pathways by just being tall, bulky men walking through snow. Um, that's like it sounds funny, but that's exactly what they're doing. Um, and then Legolas is like, "Oh, if you don't get an elf to do a job like that. You get an elf to be light-footed. And Gandalf's like, elves would bring the sun if they could. And Legolas is like, haha, that's funny. Anyways, I'm gonna go find the sun and just runs away, like back down the mountain. It's so funny to me because I just imagine all of the meme potential of like we have Boromir and Aragorn who are tall. I mean, Aragorn's mentioned to be like 6'6", which is ginormous man. And Boromir is supposed to be like shorter than that, but not that much shorter because I think he's also taller than Legolas, and Legolas is like 6 feet. So I probably put him about like 6'3" or 6'4", tall boys. And Boromir is mentioned to be like bulky, and I feel like every moment that we ever get described about Aragorn, he's tall and lanky and like a greasy boy. So they're just pushing through the snow. You can like barely see the tops of their heads because there's so much snow. And then just running past them with no ease on top of it, we have Legolas being like, haha, later, later, dudes, I am on my way to find a clear path. And he does, because Legolas is funny like that. I also find it incredibly funny how Tolkien was like, no, Legolas is not a pretty boy. He is a muscular and annoying boy. And it's like, no, you can't fool your audience, okay? People like him because they like him. Muscles are not. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up before I talk too long. This was completely unscripted. I wanted to do a funny, unscripted, uh, little nonsense about Lord of the Rings. If you like this, if you want to hear more unscripted nonsense about Lord of the Rings, I might do one of these next year for Two Towers when it hits 1 year for that. And then I also want to do one for Return of the King. I kind of want to do them also for The Hobbit, but because they're hitting their 10th anniversary next year. The issue with that is that they were also released in December and very close in day. So that would either mean I'm doing like a mashup or I'm doing back to back. Like, here's The Hobbit, and then here we've got Lord of the Rings, which personally I'm not against because I like all of them and I would love to draw, Bilbo and all the dwarves and all of the, absolute nonsense that they get up to. And I would love to read through The Hobbit again or find if they have uh, a really good audiobook and just go through that and talk about it again. And I definitely love to do it if I wasn't doing it for any movie releases. If you just want to see more, if you want to see more high fantasy, Lord of the Rings is not the only like high fantasy that I enjoy. I mentioned I like Dungeons and Dragons. I love the Witcher series. I can do a little bit on that. The season 2 of the Netflix show just came out, and I want to also start the watching the animated show that they have. I don't remember what it's called, but I want to watch it too. I can definitely do stuff for that. Uh, I also have my own high fantasy stories. If you're interested in that, just I guess like, comment. I don't know. I'll see you. Stay tuned for next week. I'll definitely be talking about Warrior Cats next week. Um, Unless I am planning a Christmas video, which I might not. I might just do one for New Year's and then yeah. Anyways, before I wrap, this is like almost 25 minutes. Okay. Goodbye. I'll keep talking if I don't go. Bye-bye.